As far as family-run cartels go, the Beltran Leyva Cartel is one of the most infamous and dangerous one in recent times. Also known as the Beltran Leyva Organization, the cartel was founded by Marcus Arturo Beltran Leyva and was led by himself and 4 of his brothers. Hector Manuel Beltran Leyva was Arturo's immediate younger brother and second in command as the leader of the organization. But when Arturo died in 2009, Hector had to step in as the cartel's new leader. If you would like to know the story of Beltran Leyva, then stay tuned to the end of the video. And if you're new to the channel, then don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button. Now without further ado, let's begin. Hector Manuel Beltran Leyva was born on May 6, 1962. He and his brothers grew up in the northern state of Sinaloa, Mexico. The mountainous area where the Beltran Leyva brothers were born and raised was known as the cradle of drug trafficking because it was the birthplace of a large number of drug kingpins. As young boys, Hector and his brothers worked closely with their cousin, the well-known drug lord Joaquin Archivaldo Guzman Leora, more commonly known by his nickname, El Chapo. While he was just 15 years old, El Chapo started cultivating and selling marijuana to help support his family financially, and he did so with the help of his cousins, the Beltran Leyva brothers, who were even younger than him. At the time, Hector was about 10 years old, and at such a young age, he had already acquired first-hand experience in the illegal drug trade, even though on a small scale. It probably won't come as a surprise that as an adult, Hector dived headfirst into a career of drug trafficking. For decades, Hector and his brothers worked with their drug lord cousin, smuggling drugs and carrying out violent crimes. The Beltran Leyva Organization was formed as a branch of El Chapo's cartel, the Sinaloa Cartel. In 2004 and 2005, the Beltran Leyva group led powerful bands of armed assassins into the northeastern region of Mexico to fight for and take over drug trade routes for the Sinaloa Cartel. The Sinaloa Cartel grew to become one of the most powerful criminal organizations in Mexico, and the Beltran Leyva group played a crucial role in this. The criminal structure that the Beltran Leyva brothers built grew so strong that it became a major part of the Sinaloa Cartel. But in 2008, this structure, which had proved itself vital to El Chapo's organization, broke off, leaving not just the cartel splintered, but also the relationship between the cousins which had been so strong for decades. The separation of the two groups occurred after the arrest of one of the Beltran Leyva brothers, Alfredo, aka El Mochomo. He was arrested on the 21st of January 2008 by the Mexican army in Culiacan, Sinaloa state. Alfredo's arrest was a huge blow to the Beltran Leyva organization because in addition to being a key money launderer for the group, he was also in charge of large-scale drug trafficking operations. The Beltran Leyva brothers, in their true ruthless fashion, were not going to take the arrest of their younger brother lying down. As revenge, they ordered the assassination of the then commissioner of the federal police and some other top government officials. But that wasn't where the revenge stopped. Hector Beltran Leyva and his remaining brothers blamed the arrest of Alfredo on El Chapo. The brothers must have had their reasons for making such a bold claim against the Sinaloa cartel leader, who wasn't just their boss and blood relation, but was also their childhood friend and partner. Whether this accusation was accurate, we may never know. What we do know is that the brothers believed that it was. So much so that they carried out an extreme act of revenge. They ordered the assassination of El Chapo's 22-year-old son, Edgar Guzman Lopez. This murder was carried out on a parking lot of a shopping center by at least 15 gunmen. Talk about overkill. As expected, this created a strong hostility between the Beltran Leyva brothers and El Chapo. The brothers left the Sinaloa cartel, taking with them loyalists who were willing to leave as well, and set up their organization as an independent cartel with Arturo, the eldest brother, as the organization's leader. And so, the BLO was formed. Predictably, the separation of the two cartels resulted in a bloody war as they fought for control of drug smuggling routes. The conflict left so many people dead and even caused some sites to become empty, abandoned ghost towns. As an independent cartel, the Beltran Leyva Organization went on a reign of terror and crime. In addition to producing, transporting, and wholesaling illegal drugs such as cocaine, heroin, and marijuana, the BLO was also heavily involved in human smuggling, money laundering, extortion, kidnapping, and murder. The brothers would also illegally obtain weapons and ammunition from the United States and traffic them into Mexico to aid their ruthless crusade. The rate of crime and violence in Mexico increased considerably because of the actions of the BLO. In particular, their enforcement arm, the Fuerzas Armadas de Arturo, was considered one of the most brutal and cruel groups in Mexico, specifically because of the gruesome way they dealt with their enemies. Not relying on brute force and violence alone, the BLO effectively infiltrated the ranks of different government institutions in Mexico, including Mexico's Interpol. Through corruption and intimidation, the Beltran Leyva Organization succeeded in building a sophisticated intelligence network that would provide them with privileged government information and give the cartel the upper hand. By combining firepower and ruthlessness with the information that was regularly leaked to them through their intelligence network, the Beltran Leyva cartels grew to become one of Mexico's most powerful drug cartels. But with the death of Arturo Beltran Leyva, their leader, this position that the cartel held would be threatened. Arturo was killed on December 16, 2009, during a shootout which involved well over 100 Mexican Marines and lasted over an hour. When Hector, who was also known as LH, replaced Arturo as the leader of the BLO, one of his first acts as the organization's leader was the carrying out of the revenge of his brother's death. He ordered the killing of 4 family members of one of the Marines who was involved in the shootout. As if that wasn't enough, he had narco banners placed on a kindergarten school, threatening anyone who interfered with their organization, and to top it all off, a section of the school was set on fire, and so began Hector's reign of terror. Under Hector's leadership, the crime rates in Mexico continued to rise as a direct effect of the actions of the Beltran Leyva Organization. There were numerous cases of murders, kidnappings, tortures, and other violent acts carried out against men, women, and even children. Hector and his organization were also connected to several assassinations of Mexican law enforcement officials. The Kingpin built a reputation for himself as one of the most vengeful and ruthless Mexican drug lords, and soon, he became one of the most wanted criminals in Mexico. Unfortunately for the cartel, their power gradually began to wane as the force of the law came down upon them. Not too long after Arturo was killed, Carlos Beltran Leyva, the brother who kept the lowest profile, was arrested by the authorities after he showed them a fake driver's license. Carlos was then detained on charges of money laundering, drug trafficking, criminal conspiracy, and illegal firearms. Not too long after that, Hector was the only brother left to run the organization. The authorities continued to come down hard on the cartel. One by one, the highest-ranking members of the cartel were picked up and detained by law enforcement. In 2010, 2 cartel lieutenants, Edgar Valdez Villarreal and Gerardo Alvarez Vasquez, who had a $2 million bounty placed on his head by the United States, were arrested at different times on the outskirts of Mexico City. In just a few years, more and more of the key players of the Beltran Leyva Organization were captured. Finally, on the 11th of August in 2011, a cartel lieutenant named Oscar Osvaldo Garcia Montoya, aka El Compayito, was arrested. He was described as the last Beltran Leyva link of any importance, so upon his arrest, Mexican authorities declared the cartel disbanded. With most of its leadership either dead or arrested, the Beltran Leyva Organization was on its last legs. What used to be one of the fiercest criminal organizations and one of the largest traffickers of cocaine became a mere shadow of its former self. Apart from the attacks it was receiving from the outside, the BLO was also experiencing internal clashes and leadership disputes. Multiple factions broke off from the cartel and became independent groups, leaving the BLO in a bad state. With his organization falling apart and 2 governments trying to hunt him down, Hector decided to leave behind the luxury lifestyle common among drug capos. Instead, to keep a low profile, he moved to the nearby city of Querétaro in central Mexico and took the identity of a wealthy businessman involved in real estate and art dealership. By this time, he had earned himself a United States sanction under the Kingpin Act for his involvement in drug trafficking. This sanction virtually froze all his assets in the United States and prohibited US citizens and companies from conducting any kind of business activity with him. Also, Hector had 2 bounties on his head for any information leading to his arrest or conviction. One was placed by the United States government and was worth $5 million, while the other was worth $2.1 million and was placed by the Mexican government. Unfortunately for Hector, all his attempts at keeping a low profile to prevent his arrest was for nothing. On October 1st, 2014, he was located and captured by the Mexican army. It was a Wednesday and the undercover drug lord was dining at a popular seafood restaurant in San Miguel de Allende, a town in central Mexico. He was in the company of a businessman who was a member of the local Green Party. A spokesman for the government, Tomas Zeron, announced the arrest. According to him, both men were armed, but no shots were fired during the operation. The businessman who was with Hector was named Germán Goyeneche, and it was discovered that he had become the chief financer of what was left of the cartel. After his arrest, Hector was taken to a maximum security prison. Eventually, he was formally charged in a federal court for drug trafficking, money laundering, and organized crime offenses. While in prison, facing charges of trafficking cocaine, heroin, marijuana, and meth, and awaiting his trial, Hector died. According to the medics and the authorities, the cause of the drug capo's death was a heart attack. The incident occurred early on November 18, 2018. While in his cell, Hector began suffering from chest pains. When a prison guard noticed, he called in a health worker who tried to give the drug lord first aid right there in the prison cell. But despite the medics' efforts, Hector's symptoms continued to worsen. Prison officials made the decision to move Beltran Leyva from his cell in the maximum security prison to the Adolfo Lopez Mateos Medical Center in the nearby city of Toluca. While in the hospital, security forces safeguarded the emergency area as Hector received medical attention. Hector Manuel Beltran Leyva eventually died later that day. The drug lord had made several enemies in his life, and many must have believed that the incident was a revenge killing. However, his death was officially attributed to a heart attack, and the authorities announced in a statement that Hector received the medical attention he required, and that the staff of the hospital exhausted all the clinical resources at its disposal. An autopsy was carried out as required by Mexican law. His family was notified of his death, and they claimed his body. Without a leader at its core, the Beltran Leyva Organization, which was once a force to be reckoned with, is now fragmented into smaller factions with not as nearly as much sway as it had about a decade ago. Don't forget to like this video and share it. And so you don't miss out on new videos, hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications. Until next time.